Before start the story, subscribe the channel. And tell us where from you are watching. The billionaire sat alone in his vast study, the city's lights shimmering far below like distant stars. Despite all his wealth, all his power, his heart felt empty. The tragedy of losing his son years ago had left a wound no gold or success could heal. He ran his hands over an old, worn photograph, tracing the face of the boy he had once held. "Where are you, my child?" he whispered. The voice trembled, heavy with sorrow and regret. "I have failed you once, but never again." In the silence of night, he made his decision. He would search for his son, not with pomp, not with announcements, but quietly, secretly, like a shadow moving through the city. His family and employees might not understand. Some would try to stop him, but his heart demanded action, guided by a father's love stronger than fear or shame. The first investigators arrived discreetly, their eyes cautious, knowing the power and pain of the man before them. "We will search every corner, sir," one said. "Markets, neighborhoods, street corners, every whisper of a boy who might be yours." The billionaire nodded, his jaw tight with resolve. "No rumor is too small. No lead insignificant. I need my son. Every street, every alley, every soul that might carry knowledge of him. Check them all. I will not rest until I find him." Days stretched into nights, and the search grew more complex. Each lead brought a flicker of hope, soon replaced by the ache of disappointment. A boy helping neighbors here, a young man seen elsewhere. None were him, yet the pattern of kindness, bravery, and innocence haunted the billionaire, a reminder of the son he had lost. He walked the streets himself under the cover of night, blending with merchants, children, and laborers. Every laugh of a child tugged at him. Every act of generosity from a young man stopped him in his tracks, heart pounding, wondering if fate had brought them close without his knowledge. "Could it be you?" he asked silently, each time a memory stirred. Inside his mansion, whispers of concern and envy circled. Some employees feared scandal. Some family members plotted against him. "Sir," one cautioned, "you risk everything. If the family learns, there will be chaos." The billionaire's eyes burned with quiet fury. "Let them fear what they will. This is not about fear. This is about righting a wrong. This is about love. My child matters more than gossip, more than pride, more than any inheritance." Night after night, he returned to the city's alleys and marketplaces, where the poor and forgotten lived. He watched young men giving what little they had to those weaker than themselves, their hands generous, their hearts true. Each act mirrored the boy he remembered, the boy who had once brought joy and warmth wherever he went. At times, he paused under the faint light of lanterns, his mind filled with images of what might be. A smile, a gesture, a glance, these fragments of recognition caused his chest to tighten. His heart yearned for a reunion that seemed just out of reach, guided by whispers of destiny and the wisdom of ancestors. The path of the lost child will be revealed to those who search with a pure heart. Days turned into weeks, and the search became a part of his life. Maps were marked, reports scrutinized, every alley and street corner examined. Each passing day weighed heavily upon him, but the hope of finding his son, of correcting the wrongs of the past, kept him moving forward. Then came the moments that made him pause, the fleeting glimpses of familiarity. A boy counting coin for a younger child, a young man offering food to hungry, laughter that seemed to echo the innocence of years gone by. "It could be him," he whispered into the night, the fire of determination lighting his eyes. "It must be him. I will not stop until I know." Through it all, he remained a man shaped by power and regret, walking the thin line between desperation and faith. He moved through the city quietly, guided by love, intuition, and the subtle hand of fate. Every street became a path of hope. Every encounter a test of patience and courage. "I will find you," he repeated softly, each step echoing his vow. "No secret, no distance, no deceit can keep us apart. My child, wherever you are, I will find you. And when I do, we will reclaim what was lost, and justice will be done." And so, under the vast night sky, the billionaire pressed on, relentless, unseen, driven by the bond of blood, by the whispers of the past. and by the unshakable faith that destiny, at last, would lead him to his son. The morning sun spilled gold across the city, yet inside the billionaire's mansion, shadows of worry lingered. The investigators returned once again, their faces a mixture of respect and unease. Papers rustled, maps were spread on the polished desk, and whispers filled the quiet room. "Sir," one said, his voice hesitant, "we have followed the leads you gave us. We spoke to the merchants, the street vendors. We even asked about children who might have matched the boy's description. But nothing concrete." He paused, lowering his gaze. It is as if he has vanished into the city itself. The billionaire's eyes narrowed, a storm brewing beneath the calm exterior. "Nothing concrete?" he repeated, voice trembling with controlled anger. "Every day that passes, I lose him further. Do you understand? Every street we fail to check is a day he remains lost to me." Another investigator shifted uneasily. "There have been sightings, sir, but they are not reliable. One merchant claimed a boy with the right age and mannerisms helped a neighbor, but when we arrived, he was gone. Another report suggested he was seen near the market square, giving food to a small child. Yet, when we searched, he was not there. It is frustrating, sir." The billionaire's fingers clenched the edges of his chair. The frustration that had been building over years now surged like a river breaking its dam. He recalled the elder's words from his youth, spoken by wise men whose voices had guided him once. "The child lost to the winds will appear to those who seek with patience and a heart free of pride." He whispered these words aloud, a reminder to himself that anger and haste could not bring back what fate had scattered. "Patience," he muttered, though his heart rebelled against it. And yet, every day that passes is a day lost. Can fate truly guide us, or is it only a trick of the mind? The investigators exchanged glances. They knew the mansion's power, the weight of the father's determination, but they also knew the thin edge of despair that accompanied such a search. "Sir," one ventured carefully, "perhaps we should speak to the elders in the neighborhoods, the ones who observe, who remember. Sometimes the whispers of the community reveal truths that maps cannot show." The billionaire leaned back, the firelight dancing in his eyes. "Yes," he said quietly, "we will listen to the people, for they see what we, wrapped in our wealth and walls, cannot. Their stories, their memories, they may guide me." The days that followed were a delicate dance of hope and disappointment. Investigators combed every corner of the city, asking questions in marketplaces and along crowded streets, following faint traces of a boy who might be his son. Each lead brought a flicker of anticipation, until it dissolved, leaving only the ache of what was not yet found. A woman at a street stall remembered a boy who gave his small meal to a hungry child. A vendor spoke of a young man who helped an elderly neighbor carry water from the well. The investigators scribbled notes furiously, yet when they arrived at each location, the boy had vanished as if carried away by the wind. The city itself seemed to conspire, hiding him in plain sight, testing the billionaire's resolve. Back in his mansion, he would pore over the notes late into the night, eyes scanning lines of scribbled accounts, hoping for a pattern, a thread that would lead him to his son. His heart ached with every false lead, but he did not despair. Instead, he reminded himself of the lessons of his ancestors. The river may twist and turn, but always finds the ocean. At times, he would pause by the window, watching the streets below, listening to the laughter and cries of children playing, hoping to catch a glimpse of his son among them. He knew that the boy, wherever he was, carried within him the same spirit, the same kindness, the same courage that had once been his own. And so the search continued, an intricate weave of whispers, advice from the wise, and the careful following of every clue. The investigators returned each day with tales both promising and disappointing. Yet the billionaire never wavered. Each report, vague though it might be, was a reminder that the journey was not over, that destiny had not yet revealed a child to him. "Keep searching," he said firmly, his voice low but resolute. "Do not stop. Every shadow, every corner, every whispered story in this city. Follow it. And remember, it is not just about finding a boy. It is about reclaiming what fate has taken. We will not fail." Even as frustration threatened to break him, a quiet hope remained, burning like a hidden ember. The city might hide him, The streets might scatter him, but the billionaire knew that the boy's path and his own were destined to meet. And when that day came, the reunion would be more than a meeting of father and son. It would be a testament to patience, love, and the justice that flows from a heart that refuses to give up. The boy wandered through the narrow lanes of the city's crowded neighborhoods, his small feet silent on the dusty ground. He carried no possessions but a heart full of courage and a spirit that refused to bend to the hardships surrounding him. Life had been unkind, yet he moved with a quiet dignity, his eyes always alert, his hands ready to help any soul in need. One evening, as the sun dipped behind distant buildings and the sky glowed amber, he arrived at a small, modest shop tucked between two larger buildings. Inside, the air smelled of herbs, spices, and old wood, a scent that seemed to carry the wisdom of generations. Behind the counter stood an elderly man, his hair silver like the moonlight, and eyes that had seen both suffering and joy. He smiled gently, nodding as if he had been expecting the boy. "Child," the elder said, his voice warm yet commanding, "you have walked far today. Sit and tell me what weighs upon your heart." The boy hesitated, then placed his small hands on the counter. I have no home," he admitted softly, eyes downcast. "I have only the streets and my own strength." The elder's gaze softened, but a spark of fire remained. "Strength alone is not enough," he said. "The heart must also be guided. Wisdom, patience, and kindness will carry you farther than brute force ever could. Come, I will teach you." And so, the boy became an apprentice of life under the elder's careful watch. Each morning, he would wake before the city stirred, learning to prepare meals from humble ingredients, to repair shoes, mend torn clothes, and help neighbors with small tasks. Each act, the elder explained, was a lesson in compassion. "The hands that give," he said, "are more powerful than those that take. Never forget this, child." Afternoons were for stories. The elder would sit beneath the shade of an old baobab tree, recounting tales of ancestors, of heroes and tricksters, of morals hidden in the folds of adventure. The boy listened with wide eyes, absorbing every word. Sometimes he would retell the stories to younger children, adding his own observations, and the elder would nod, proud of his growing wisdom. "Remember," the elder said one evening as the orange glow of dusk filled the sky, "life is a river, winding and deep. You may face rapids, you may face still waters, but the heart guided by courage and kindness will reach the ocean safely." The boy carried these lessons in everything he did. In the markets, he helped merchants count coins accurately. When neighbors struggled to carry water, he offered his own strength. Yet he did not boast. Pride, the elder had warned, was a chain heavier than poverty. His deeds, though small in the eyes of the world, shone with a light that could not be dimmed. One day, as he walked through a crowded street, he noticed a child crying over a fallen basket of fruits. Without hesitation, he picked up the scattered oranges, patting the child gently on the shoulder. "Do not worry," he said kindly. "We will gather them together." The child's eyes widened in surprise, a smile breaking through tears. The boy's heart swelled, for he felt the elder's words in his actions. Kindness is the mark of a true soul. The elder watched from afar, leaning on his cane, a proud glimmer in his eyes. "He grows strong," he murmured, "not in wealth or power, but in spirit. This boy carries the heart of a leader, yet he remains humble. The streets have hardened him, but they have not stolen his soul." As seasons passed, the boy learned not only survival, but also the subtleties of understanding people. The way eyes tell truth, the manner of hands that help or deceive, the whispers that hide intentions. He grew clever, careful, yet always guided by the moral compass instilled by his mentor. Every lesson, every task, every story shaped him into a young man of courage, humility, and quiet authority. Sometimes he would glance toward the distant mansions glittering on the hills, a world of wealth he had never known. He felt a strange pull in his chest, a curiosity mixed with unease. Yet he did not yearn for that life. He understood, from the elder's stories, that true strength lay not in gold, but in integrity, compassion, and honor. At night, he would lay beneath the stars, listening to the city breathe, reflecting on the day's lessons. The elder's words echoed in his mind. A heart that gives, a spirit that learns, and courage that persists, these are the treasures no one can steal. And so, amid the narrow streets and bustling markets, the boy thrived. Though poor in possessions, he was rich in wisdom, guided by the elder's hand and tempered by life's challenges. His innocence endured, his strength grew, and in the quiet moments of the night, he carried a spark that hinted at destiny, one that even the city itself could not obscure. He was no longer just a child of the streets. He was a young man of insight, shaped by hardship and wisdom, ready for the trials and reunions that fate had in store. And though he did not yet know it, the boy who learned under the baobab tree, who walked with courage and kindness, was walking toward a destiny that would bring him face to face with the father he had never known, on a night when the city would shimmer with hope and the promise of reunion. The boy walked along the dusty streets, his hands rough from carrying water and helping neighbors, yet his eyes wandered, drawn to a world he had only glimpsed in passing. At the edge of the bustling market, a sleek car gleamed under the sun, its polished surface reflecting a life he had never known. He stopped, momentarily mesmerized, watching as elegantly dressed people stepped out, their laughter rich and carefree, spilling into the street like music. "Such wealth, such ease," he whispered to himself, a frown creasing his brow. How can life be so different for some? His stomach tightened, not from hunger, but from a strange, unfamiliar longing. The boy had been taught by his mentor that life was measured by deeds, kindness, and honor. Yet seeing the richness of this world stirred a yearning he could not name. It was not greed, he told himself, but curiosity, a pull toward something that felt both foreign and familiar. As he continued walking, he passed a family gathered around a festive table in a courtyard, their home overflowing with light and abundance. Children ran freely, their laughter echoing like bells, while servants moved silently, attending to every need. The boy paused at the gate, unseen, watching the joy and comfort. A pang of emptiness pierced his heart, for he knew he had never belonged to such a world, yet a small part of him felt it should be his. He clenched his fists, trying to steady himself. "I am happy with what I have," he muttered, recalling the elder's lessons. True wealth is found in humility, courage, and the heart that gives, not the hands that grasp. But even as the words soothed him, his mind spun with questions he dared not speak aloud. What if there were a place for him among them? Would he recognize it? Or would he be lost, swallowed by a life that demanded more than his spirit could yet know? A parade of luxurious cars rolled past, horns blaring and lights gleaming. He stepped aside, eyes wide, as children in school uniforms waved and shouted greetings, their families smiling proudly from within their vehicles. He felt a strange pull, a tugging at his chest, a whisper of belonging, even though he had no claim, no name in that world. The city seemed to shift around him, dividing streets and people by invisible lines, the divide glaring yet subtle, like the shadow cast by a tall building on the warm ground. The boy turned away, walking deeper into the crowded alleys, yet the images lingered. He could not erase the contrast. The warmth of families in the mansions, the ease of those who needed nothing, against the struggles he had grown up with, the long walks for water, the nights spent under tin roofs, the small meals shared with others less fortunate. Confusion gnawed at him. Was it wrong to long for more? Was humility enough when the world offered glimpses of abundance? He paused at a small fountain, watching his reflection ripple in the water. His eyes searched a face staring back, strong yet unpolished, clever yet unclaimed by privilege. "I am not theirs," he whispered, voice tinged with uncertainty. "And yet what am I missing?" Memories of the elders' teaching surfaced. The heart must guide you, not desire alone. The path of the soul is different from the path of gold. Do not be fooled by wealth. Let character measure your worth. The boy bowed his head, trying to reconcile the pull of longing with the wisdom he had been given. He knew he must remain true to himself, yet the tension within him grew sharper each day. Later, he passed a bustling market square where merchants displayed vibrant cloth, fragrant spices, and rare fruits. Rich families walked among the stalls, purchasing luxuries without a thought for cost. He offered to help carry a basket for an elderly woman, and her gratitude reminded him the power of small deeds. Yet even as he smiled, a shadow of desire lingered, a curiosity about what it might feel like to have abundance without struggle, to move freely in a world that seemed closed to him. Night fell, and the city lights flickered to life, illuminating the contrast between the streets of the poor and the neighborhoods of wealth. The boy sat beneath a tree, hands clasped around his knees, heart heavy yet hopeful. He understood, as the elder had taught, that true strength was in resilience, in honor, in kindness. Yet he could not deny the pull he felt toward a life unknown, a destiny hinted at by fleeting glimpses of luxury, laughter, and family. In the quiet of the evening, he whispered to the stars, "I am grateful for what I have, but what is meant for me? Will I find a place where my heart and my path meet? Will I belong someday in both worlds, without losing the lessons I've learned?" And so, the young man continued walking through the city's vibrant streets, caught between humility and longing, between the life he knew and the life that might be awaiting him. Each step carried him closer to understanding, closer to the moment when fate would draw him toward the father he had never known, toward the destiny that shimmered like the city lights before him, bright, uncertain, and full of promise. The city pulsed with life, the narrow streets alive with laughter, bartering, and the aroma of spices. The billionaire moved quietly among the crowd, his eyes scanning every corner, every face, hoping for a sign. His heart thumped, though he did not know why, as if some invisible thread tugged him forward. He had walked these streets countless times, yet today it felt different. Today, the air seemed heavier with expectation, and the chatter of the market carried a rhythm that echoed in his chest. Across the square, the young man moved deftly, carrying bundles of bread and fresh vegetables for the families he helped. His eyes, alert and wary, took in the faces of passers-by with the wisdom of the streets and the caution of one who had survived hardship. When he paused to help a child untangle from a stubborn bicycle chain, he noticed a man who watched quietly, a stranger whose gaze lingered too long. A strange flutter stirred in his chest, familiar yet distant. The man approached a small stall, reaching out to examine a carved figurine, an elephant, finely detailed. As he lifted it, the boy's eyes caught a glint of a small pendant around the man's neck, a gold charm in the shape of a lion's head. He froze, a memory surfacing from a time before he could fully understand. A man, a gift, a lion's charm given on a night of warmth and laughter. But the faces were different now, lined with years, hardened by time. Could it be? No, impossible, he told himself. The billionaire's eyes followed the boy as he moved past the crowd, his gestures gentle, almost regal in their ease. There was something in the way he carried himself, an unspoken dignity, a rhythm of movement, that stirred something deep within the father's soul. A rush of memories surged. A tiny hand his own, laughter echoing through a sunlit courtyard, a promise whispered on the night of loss. His breath caught. Could fate have brought him so close, yet still hidden? The boy paused to offer a basket of food to an elderly woman seated near a fountain, her hands trembling with age. He smiled, warm and full of light, and the man's heart ached as if recognizing that same smile, though years of absence blurred the edges. "There is something about him," he murmured, voice tight. "A spirit I cannot name, yet it is mine." A child ran past, dropping a small notebook in the commotion. The boy bent to pick it up, his fingers brushing against the corner of a photograph tucked inside, an image of a family he had never known, a father's eyes so full of love they seemed to reach through the page. He felt a pang, a tug at the heart, and instinctively he looked up. The man was closer now, his expression troubled, searching, as if the wind itself carried whispers meant only for him. Their eyes met briefly, a spark igniting in the silent language of recognition that words could never convey. Yet neither spoke, both afraid to hope, both fearful of disappointment. The boy turned away, caught up in the rhythm of the market, but the image of the man lingered in his mind. The lion pendant, the weight of longing in his eyes, the familiarity that could not be denied. Later, at a charity gathering, the billionaire distributed blankets to children whose families could not afford warmth. He watched the boy from across the hall, offering a blanket to a small girl with careful hands, bending low with tenderness that echoed a memory buried deep in his heart. He noticed a scar on the boy's wrist, faint but unmistakable, and a gasp rose in his chest. His hands trembled, yet he forced himself to remain calm, afraid that any outward sign would shatter the delicate thread connecting them. The boy, sensing the man's gaze, paused mid-step. A strange shiver ran down his spine. He turned slowly, catching sight of the man's expression, a mixture of hope, fear, and longing that mirrored his own. It was as if the world had shifted, time had folded, and they stood on the same line of destiny. And yet, the crowd pressed in, conversations rose, and they were separated again, the connection a whisper on the wind. That night, both returned to their homes, hearts heavy with unspoken questions. The man clutched the lion pendant, tracing the intricate carvings with trembling fingers. Could it truly be him? He wondered aloud. The boy lay beneath the roof of the mentor's home, staring at the stars, remembering the photograph, the warmth of a father he could not name, the pull of a life he had only glimpsed. "Something calls to me," he whispered, voice soft as the night. "I do not know what it is, but it feels like home." The city slept, yet the invisible thread of fate stretched taut between them. Each step they took, each gesture unnoticed, each smile offered in the kindness of their hearts, pulled them closer. Hints and symbols, pendants, gestures, shared memories, wove a tapestry of suspense, a silent drumbeat of reunion that neither dared to speak aloud. The world remained unaware of the imminent convergence, yet the spirits of father and son felt in the cadence of the night, in the soft rustle of leaves, in the warmth of distant lights. And so the days passed, each encounter a brush with destiny. The boy's heart tugged him towards something he could not name. The father's soul recognized a presence that eluded his eyes. Suspense built, invisible yet palpable, as both moved through their lives unaware that the moment of recognition, of reunion, approached like a shadow at sunset, inevitable, fated, and charged with the power of love, forgiveness, and the bonds of family. The mansion glowed in the evening light, its walls lined with portraits of ancestors, each painting a silent reminder of the weight of family legacy. In the grand hall, voices murmured, low and urgent, carrying the tension of a storm about to break. The billionaire's extended family had gathered, ostensibly for the season celebration, but beneath the surface, currents of resentment ran deep. "The father's power grows too great," whispered Uncle Baco, his eyes darting toward the chandelier that caught the last rays of sun. "And what of the son he lost? He may return, and our place will vanish like smoke in the wind." Aunt Lila's fingers tapped the table nervously. The nails painted a deep, symbolic red, the color of warning in their village. "It is not only the wealth," she hissed. "It is the respect, the pride. If he finds this boy, all our influence is weakened. We must act before the father claims what is rightfully his heart." Cousin Tay leaned forward, his voice low, conspiratorial. "We know the streets. We know whispers and rumors. If the boy has been seen, we will ensure they are false, redirect attention. The father must not discover him too soon. The family must remain in control of the legacy." Elder Mama and Jerry, seated with a stoic grace, shook her head, her eyes sharp beneath the folds of her headscarf. "Remember, children, respect for the elders is the root of our strength. Yet you speak of deceit and manipulation, as though the spirits themselves will bless such actions. The ancestors watch. Every lie, every hidden truth will return in its own time." Uncle Baco scoffed, brushing aside her caution with the arrogance of ambition. "Spirits or not, Mama and Jerry, we live in a city that thrives on power, not prayers. If we do not act, the inheritance, the honor, and our status are lost to this absent child who knows nothing of the world we have built." The room fell into a tense silence, the crackling fire on the hearth the only sound. The family's eyes drifted toward the grand doorway, where the winter light from the city streets fell like silver upon the marble floor. They could almost imagine the boy's return, his presence a shadow over their carefully constructed lives. A shiver ran through the youngest cousin, a premonition that some threads of fate could not be severed, no matter how tightly one tried to weave deception. Aunt Lila rose, her voice a mixture of command and fear. "We must act swiftly. Contacts in the market, among the city's gossip, must be informed. Any sighting of the boy must be misdirected. The father's search is relentless, but the city is large, and we have influence there. We will control the whispers, guide the paths, and keep him lost." The room responded with murmurs of assent, though the weight of conscience hung heavily in the air. Even those most eager to manipulate could not ignore the caution of Mama and Jerry. Do not let greed blind you entirely. The boy is not just a child of wealth. He is a child of fate. The father's heart beats for him still. You may delay, mislead, even frighten, but the threads of destiny are stronger than all our plots. Be warned, for the spirits will not favor deceit forever. Uncle Baco's hand clenched around the crystal glass he held, the amber liquid inside catching the firelight. Let the spirits watch, if they must. We live in the now, and in the now we act. The boy will remain hidden until we see fit, and the father will have no choice but to bow to our plans. This family will not crumble under the weight of nostalgia and regret. Cousin Tay nodded, though his eyes betrayed doubt. It is a delicate dance, he murmured. Every word, every gesture must align with the plan. If the father suspects our interference, all is lost. But if we succeed, the family's honor, power, and legacy remain untouched. The boy is only a pawn, though his heart may be stronger than he knows. Mama and Jerry rose slowly, her presence commanding respect. She walked to the center of the room, her voice a calm but firm echo of ancestral authority. You forget that honor and family are not measured by deceit. The boy's return may bring challenges, yes, but also opportunity. The father's love is a force stronger than any scheme you can conceive. If you walk the path of shadows, you risk losing not just him, but yourselves. Her words settled like dust in the room, uneasy and heavy. The fire flickered, casting long shadows across the faces of the plotting relatives. Some dared to meet Mama in Jerry's gaze. Others looked away, their resolve shaken but not broken. And so, the family plotted, weaving plans of secrecy and manipulation in whispers that could not escape the walls but would ripple through the city. Every action measured, every word calculated, yet all the while, the unseen threads of destiny pulled toward the inevitable. The son, wandering unknowingly through the streets, lived under the watchful eyes of mentors, neighbors, and fate itself, unaware that the mansion's walls held schemes meant to obscure his very existence. Outside, the city thrummed with life, markets bustling, children laughing, and the wind carrying the distant sound of drums and celebration. Within the walls, power and greed wove a dangerous tapestry. Yet beyond control, beyond plotting, the heart of father beat with longing, and the boy's spirit glimmered with resilience. The stage was set for a collision of destiny, a confrontation between love and ambition, truth and deceit, and a quiet but unstoppable force of fate that no human hand could fully command. The city streets glimmered with the soft light of lanterns and the distant hum of festive drums. Yet within the walls of the opulent mansion, a storm brewed, unseen by those celebrating beyond the gates. The billionaire's extended family gathered in shadow corners, their whispers sharp, full of cunning and ambition. "We cannot allow him to find the boy," Aunt Lila said, her eyes darting toward the large portraits of the family ancestors lining the hallway. "If he does, all our plans unravel. His heart will blind him to reason, and he will reclaim what we have long kept under control." Uncle Baco's voice, low and menacing, cut through the murmurs. The streets are full of voices, rumors that shift with the wind. We will feed them false trails, rumors that lead away from a boy. Let the father chase shadows. We hold the path. Cousin Tay unfurled a map of the city, its corners marked with symbols only they understood. "Here," he whispered, tracing a finger along the narrow alleys where the boy was rumored to roam. "If word reaches the father that the boy is here, he will rush headlong. We must plant signs that mislead him, calls from vendors, sightings by neighbors, even old friends who will tell tales, half-truths, and fables. Let the city itself become a maze for him." Mama and Jerry, seated with the quiet authority of age, shook her head slowly. "The ancestors watch every step. You speak a deceit as though it is your right. But remember, a lie once planted takes root in more than one heart. You may mislead him, yes, but the boy's innocence is a light that no shadow can fully conceal." Uncle Baco's hand slammed on the table, rattling the silver candlesticks. Innocence does not fill mouths or maintain power. If we do not act swiftly, the father's longing will pierce every corner of the city, and the boy will be found. He will take what is his, our influence, our honor. We will not permit that. The relatives leaned closer, their faces lit by candlelight, shadows stretching like fingers across the marble floor. Plans were whispered with precision. A neighbor would misremember the boy's whereabouts. A street vendor would spread a tale of someone with a different description. An old friend would hint at a departure for a distant village. Each small deception, though seemingly harmless, built a fortress of confusion around the boy's path. In a quiet room above the hall, a servant scribbled coded messages on scraps of paper, leaving them in baskets and market stalls, meant to be discovered by curious eyes but twisted to serve the family scheme. "This will keep him searching," Tay said, his tone a mixture of pride and anxiety. "He will follow these signs, each one a step further from the truth." Yet outside, the city breathed its own life. The boy, unaware of the plotting, walked the alleys, collecting scraps of kindness, small lessons from his mentor, and whispers of the community's needs. His heart, pure and determined, felt a strange pull he could not name, a tug toward a place he had never seen, yet somehow recognized. Uncle Baco's eyes narrowed. Even now, he may sense the truth. That child is cleverer than we suppose. Keep him occupied with small tasks, distractions. Every coin he earns, every kindness he gives, we turn confusion. The father will chase shadows while the boy remains hidden. Aunt Lila added, "The streets are alive with gossip, and people trust the word of neighbors more than the word of strangers. We will seed half-truths in every corner. He will hear a story of a boy gone to the northern markets, another of one in the southern square. Let him chase every rumor." Mama and Jerry, still calm, rose slowly. "And yet, remember this, truth has a heartbeat. The boy's spirit cannot be caged by whispers or shadows. He may falter, wander, be misled, but the heart of a child guided by justice and kindness is not easily stopped. The father's love, too, is a force older than your schemes. Beware of arrogance, for it blinds even the cleverest." The relatives fell silent for a moment, the weight of her words pressing against their ambition. Candles flickered, casting long, moving shadows across the walls. The air was thick with tension, a mixture of fear and anticipation. Each knew the stakes, the inheritance, the power, the respect. Everything hung in a balance, teetering on the edge of revelation they could neither fully control nor entirely predict. In the marketplace, far from the mansion's halls, children laughed and vendors called out their wares. And in the swirl of ordinary life, the boy moved unknowingly closer to the destiny his family tried to obscure. Every coded message, every misdirection, every whispered lie brought suspense, testing the patience of a father desperate to reunite with his lost son. The family gathered once more, faces tense, whispers urgent. "If he finds the boy," Uncle Baco said, his voice a low growl, "our power is gone. Every scheme must hold, every rumor sway, every eye watch for signs. Let us move swiftly, and may the city itself help us hide the truth until we see fit." Outside, the wind carried the faint scent of roasting maize and the distant sound of drums. The boy, guided only by instinct and kindness, moved unknowingly through the paths the relatives sought to twist. The city, alive with life and culture, had become both stage and labyrinth. Each twist of fate, each encounter, each small act of generosity or misdirection wove a tapestry of suspense, highlighting the stark contrast between the innocence of youth and the moral corruption of ambition. The candlelight flickered, shadows shifted, and the relatives dispersed, each stepping carefully into the night, carrying secrets and schemes. Yet in the hearts of both father and son, unseen threads of connection pulsed with quiet insistence, leading to a reunion that neither power nor deception could truly prevent. The city itself seemed to hold its breath, awaiting the collision of destiny, the moment when love and truth would finally rise above manipulation and deceit. The city had grown quiet as evening settled, yet in the heart of the towering mansion, silence was pierced by the restless pacing of a man whose soul carried both wealth and regret. The billionaire stood by the vast window overlooking the streets below, watching the fading lights, the laughter of families, the merchants closing their stalls. His hands clenched the edges of the marble sill, knuckles pale, as though the act of holding on could tether him to the hope he feared was slipping away. "Is it possible have I failed him again?" he muttered, the words barely more than a whisper. carried away by the gentle wind that slipped through the slightly ajar window. His mind retraced the paths of investigators, the alleys searched, the whispers in the marketplaces, each lead dissolving into mist as though fate itself toyed with his desperation. His chief aide, Cato, entered cautiously, sensing the weight that pressed upon his employer. "Sir, the team has followed every lead. We've checked the shelters, the old markets, the streets he might have wandered. But nothing." The billionaire finished for him, voice heavy with longing. "Nothing leads to my son. Every clue turns to shadow. Every whisper fades into silence." His eyes, dark and stormy, reflected a soul torn between fear and hope. "I left him once. Never again. And yet, what if the world has hidden him too well?" Cato hesitated. "Sir, sometimes a boy's path is guided by forces beyond our seeing. The city is wide, and fate, it has its own rhythm. Perhaps patience." Patience! The billionaire's laugh was bitter, echoing through the vast, empty hall. "I have waited 20 years, Cato. I have sought him through storms, through fire and silence. And still, I do not know if I will see his face before this night ends." His gaze drifted to a small carved figurine on the window ledge. A gift his son had once held, though he did not remember the boy's face clearly. The carved figure of a lion, strong and noble, seemed to stare back, as if reminding him that courage and destiny are intertwined. The wind outside shifted, carrying with it the faint scent of roasting corn and candle smoke from nearby homes. The billionaire inhaled deeply, closing his eyes. Perhaps I am not meant to succeed," he murmured. His thoughts turned to the day he lost his son, to the laughter that had once filled these halls, now replaced by echoes of silence and the ache of absence. Yet, how can fate mock me so, to plant him so close, yet keep him hidden? In his study, he sank into the high-backed chair, hands clasped, and whispered prayers that had long been silenced by pride. "Oh, ancestors, if it is your will, guide him to me. If this is a night of reunion, do not let my eyes find only shadows." His voice trembled, a rare break in the armor of power he had built. "I have wealth, I have influence, but what is all of this if I cannot right the wrong of a father's absence?" Cato knelt respectfully, unsure if words could soothe the tempest of grief and longing. "Sir, you have done all that a man could. The boy's journey is not solely ours to control. Fate weaves paths that even we cannot untangle. Trust that the spirit of a child, guided by innocence, will not stray from the light." The billionaire raised his head, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "And yet, the weight of my failure, it presses upon me like the sky itself. What if the years have hardened him? What the world has taught him to fear me, to doubt love? I cannot lose him again. Not to time, not to chance, not to my own failings." He rose once more, moving to the balcony. The city stretched below like a living tapestry of stories and lives intertwined. Every flickering light seemed to whisper a possibility, a small beacon guiding him. Yet each alley held the echo of mischances. "Fate, you are cruel and merciful in equal measure. I have lived in wealth, yet my heart knows poverty. I have power, yet am powerless over the years lost. Let this night be the one where destiny bends for mercy." A sudden sound from the street, a child's laughter, a merchant's call, brought his thoughts sharply to the present. His heart quickened. Could it be? Could this ordinary moment carry the extraordinary turn he had longed for? He gripped the balcony, knuckles white, and whispered again to the unseen forces that guide lives. "If he is near, if this is the moment, let me not falter. Let me see him, know him, and hold him before the dawn comes." The mansion, so vast and silent, seemed to breathe with him, each step of his pacing a drumbeat in the unfolding rhythm of destiny. His mind spun with images of the boy, street-smart, resilient, a spirit untouched by the world's cruelty. Could he recognize the son he had lost in the tragedy now turned mystery? Could he reach across the years of absence with nothing but love and longing as his guide? Outside, the wind carried whispers through the city, drifting across rooftops, over markets, past doors where families prepared for night. Somewhere his son moved, unaware of the man who searched with heart in hand. Somewhere, fate drew them ever closer. And in the quiet of the billionaire's hall, amid gold and marble, he whispered again, almost to himself, "May the spirits of our ancestors guide him to me. May my arms be ready for the child I lost, and never again let go." He sank to the balcony floor, head in hands, heart heavy with anticipation, fear, and unbroken hope. In this moment, wealth was meaningless. Power was irrelevant. Only the light of reunion, only the path fate had laid before him, mattered. And though the night was deep, though shadows whispered doubt, he felt the faintest pulse of certainty. Destiny, like the river, flows toward the sea of truth, and the boy was waiting, as inexorably as the stars wait for nightfall. The city streets hummed with life as the late afternoon sun dipped behind the concrete and corrugated rooftops. In a narrow alleyway, where laughter and hardship mingled like old friends, a young man moved among children who played with worn-out balls, their shoes tattered but their joy undimmed. He carried a small basket filled with food he had gathered from the market, fruit that had been overlooked, bread that sellers would have discarded. "Here, my friends," he said, offering mangoes to the children. His voice carried warmth, a light that contrasted with the grime and shadows of the streets. "Eat before it grows cold. Share with your sisters and brothers." A little girl hesitated, her eyes wide. "But why are you giving this to us? You do not have much yourself." The young man smiled, crouching to meet her gaze. "I have enough," he said softly. "And enough is not just what you hold. It is what you share." Somewhere above, on the balcony of a grand mansion that overlooked these very streets, the billionaire stood, a coat wrapped tightly around him. The cold winter wind tugged at his scarf, but it could not disturb the storm within his heart. His eyes, sharp and searching, caught movement below. A young man, lean, strong, with the careful grace of someone hardened by the world, was distributing food to children with a gentle patience he had not seen in years. Could it be? The billionaire whispered to himself, heart thrumming with an impossible mix of hope and fear. He leaned forward, trying to catch a better look, the wind carrying a faint laughter up from the alley, a sound uncannily familiar. The young man noticed a child fall while running to catch a rolling ball. Without hesitation, he darted forward, catching the child mid-fall and steadying him with strong, careful hands. "You will not fall today," he said, his voice tender. The children around him cheered, their delight echoing against the walls, a melody of life that seemed to reach across the distance, even to the grand mansion. The billionaire's breath caught. Each act of kindness, each careful gesture, struck chords deep within him. He remembered the boy he had lost, the laughter, the mischief, the small hands that once fit so perfectly into his own. Could fate have guided him here, unseen but present, just as the elders had long whispered, destiny moves in ways the eyes cannot always see. Meanwhile, the young man noticed an old woman struggling with a heavy bundle of firewood. He approached quickly. "Let me help you, ma'am," he said, lifting the bundle onto his shoulder with ease. She looked up, surprised, her eyes misty with gratitude. "Blessings upon you, son. You have the heart of a lion," she said softly, using words his mother might have spoken. Unbeknownst to him, the billionaire's heart leaped. The words, the gestures, the courage and selflessness. It was as if each small act formed a map, invisible yet unmistakable, leading toward truth he had long feared and longed for. His hands trembled on the balcony railing, knuckles tight, as he whispered to the spirits of ancestors and memory alike, "Is this the child I have sought? Is this the life that has survived the shadows of the past?" The young man continued, visiting a small market stall where a boy had dropped his few coins. He bent down to gather them, returning each one with a careful smile. "Your coins are yours, earned by your effort," he said. "Never let them be lost to carelessness. One day they will grow into what you need." At that very moment, the billionaire stepped back, almost in disbelief. Each act, each small kindness, each courageous gesture was a thread pulling the past and present together. He remembered the stories the elders told of destiny's weaving. Even when lost, the child of your heart may shine in the shadows, and their light will lead you to them. The alley was alive with children now, playing around a young man, their laughter a chorus of innocence and joy. He paused, handing a piece of bread to a hungry dog who had wandered near, a small act of mercy unnoticed by most. But the billionaire saw it all. His chest tightened as he recognized a pattern, a rhythm of compassion, courage, and integrity that mirrored the son he had loved and lost so many years ago. The young man finally paused, breathing deeply, surveying the children and neighbors whose day had been brightened by his care. He smiled, though tired, a quiet satisfaction in his eyes. "May the spirits guide us all to do good, even when the world is heavy," he murmured, unaware that his words drifted upward, crossing distance and fortune, reaching ears long attuned to hope. On the balcony, the billionaire closed his eyes, clutching a pendant he had once worn, a token of memory and longing. "I see you," he whispered, voice breaking. "I feel you, and I know now. The path is not lost. Destiny has not abandoned us. Tonight may yet be ours." As the young man walked down the alley, helping an elderly man untangle a bundle of cloth, the father's heart thumped with anticipation. The son's virtue, his courage, and his generosity, the invisible thread of goodness, had unknowingly drawn the father closer, setting the stage for the reunion that even fate itself could not withhold. And in the quiet swell of evening, as the city's lamps began to flicker like scattered stars, both father and son moved through the world unaware of the nearness of the other, yet inexorably the tapestry of destiny wove them together, one thread at a time, toward the moment where years of longing and hope would find their rest. The city was alive with the hum of the season. Christmas lights shimmered across the streets, flickering reflections onto the worn pavements where merchants called to customers and children darted between stalls. In the midst of this bustle, the young man moved with quiet purpose. He carried a bundle of blankets to a small family whose home had been damaged by recent rains. His eyes caught the glint of Christmas ornaments hanging crookedly from their small window, a humble attempt to celebrate joy amidst struggle. "Here," he said, laying the blankets carefully. "May warmth find you tonight." The mother clasped her hands together, tears brimming. "Who are you, child?" she asked softly. "You are a blessing." He shook his head with a gentle smile. "I am just someone who remembers what it is to be without." A few streets away, on the balcony of his opulent mansion, the billionaire father watched through binoculars, a mix of disbelief and longing tightening his chest. He had come to the city himself that evening, unable to wait for reports or investigations. Each small act of kindness by the young man seemed to ripple outward, echoing in the very rhythm of his heart. The way the young man paused to help an elderly woman untangle her bundles, or how he bent low to comfort a crying child, struck him with an intensity he could not ignore. The young man entered a crowded square, where a street performance was underway. Children laughed as drummers pounded out a steady rhythm, their hands moving like fire over skins of stretched animal hide. A small girl lost her doll in the crowd, its wooden head catching the light of the lanterns. Without hesitation, the young man chased after it, weaving through the throng, his hand steady and sure. The doll fell into the path of a speeding cart, and he leapt forward, catching it just in time. The child clutched it tightly, her face bright with gratitude. You are like a spirit," she whispered. The billionaire stiffened on his balcony, gripping the railing. That phrase, "like a spirit," struck him as familiar. He felt a memory stir. The lullabies sung to his son, the stories of ancestors guiding their children, whispers that virtue and destiny would never be lost. Later, in a quiet alley, the young man noticed a dog limping along, its paw torn. He knelt, examining the injury, murmuring, "Even those without voices must be cared for." He wrapped the paw gently and left scraps of food nearby. The dog wagged its tail, eyes bright with trust, before following him a few steps as if acknowledging a bond. At that moment, a black SUV slowed on the main street. The billionaire, leaning out to see better, caught sight of the young man helping the dog. There was a pendant around the young man's neck, a small, familiar charm shaped like a crescent moon. A flash of memory seized him. It was a keepsake he had given his son long ago, the same charm that had been lost in the tragedy that separated them. The father's heart pounded violently. Could this really be the child he had lost? The symbols, the acts of kindness, the courage, the very gestures, they were threads weaving an invisible connection that pulled him closer despite years of absence. As dusk fell, A festival procession began down the main avenue. The young man carried water to those working behind stalls, encouraged children to dance safely, and offered his coat to a shivering elder. Each small act mirrored the values the billionaire had once hoped to instill in his son: bravery, generosity, and a heart attuned to justice and goodness. The father watched from his car, following at a distance, afraid to approach, yet compelled by every instinct. Twice he thought of stopping to speak, but each time the young man moved away, the crowd shielding him, leaving the father with glimpses: a hand extended, a bowed head, a soft smile. Every near encounter was a brush with destiny, leaving a bitter ache of frustration mixed with the thrill of hope. A street vendor handed the young man a small, wrapped package. "A gift for helping so many," he said. The young man accepted it humbly, placing beside a family whose children had been singing carols, too shy to ask for anything. He whispered, "May this light remind you that kindness travels faster than wealth." The father exhaled sharply, recognizing the wisdom in the words. Could this be the same voice that had once echoed through his own home, a child's laughter intertwined with innocence and morality? The very cadence of the young man's speech seemed familiar, as if carried from memory across years and loss. As evening deepened, the young man paused on a bridge overlooking the city. He leaned against the railing, watching light shimmer on water. In his pocket, the pendant he had kept since childhood, though small, it held the weight of memory, rested against his chest. He did not know its meaning, only that it connected him to a life and a father unseen. From the distant road, the father's eyes caught the pendant, and a shiver ran down his spine. He whispered, "Destiny, you cannot escape me now." Every near encounter, the doll, the dog, the acts of care, the shared symbols, was a warning, a guidepost, a foreshadowing of the reunion that could no longer be avoided. The city seemed to hush for a moment, as if holding its breath. The young man turned, smiling at children who waved to him, unaware that every act of his goodness had drawn him closer to the father who had been searching for him all these years. Each step, each gesture, each laugh and tear was a thread in the tapestry of fate, pulling two lives together against the odds of time, separation, and human frailty. As the young man vanished into the evening crowd, the father remained, tears glinting in his eyes under the streetlights, heart beating with hope and dread. He knew the moment was near. The motifs, the signs, the moral courage of his son, they all whisper the same truth. Tonight, the threads of destiny would weave them into one, and no force, neither greed nor fear, could undo what was meant to be.